energy on a beautiful night in the San Francisco Bay Area. We're across the Bay Bridge in Moraga on the campus of St. Mary's College for another edition of what has been a great rivalry over the last couple of decades. St. Mary's hosting the #1 team in the nation, the Gonzaga Bulldogs. Hi, everybody. Dave Fleming along with Sean Farnham. We are safely distanced. We are here in person, though, in Moraga. And, Sean, you and I have seen so many of these matchups be classics over the years. This time around, huge challenge for the Gales because of how good Gonzaga is.
Oh, Dave, I've never seen you look any taller. It's a big task just to stand back here behind you. But you take a look at this offense for the Gonzaga Bulldogs. They're going to look to create and score in transition. The Gales, they want to slow down the pace. One of the ways you can do it is creating offense off your defense. Watch Jalen Suggs here. Comes down against BYU, head up immediately. Joel Ayayi leaks out a little bit. They find him in transition. No slowing down the tempo, no defensive transition. This time, Corey Kispert receives the ball. He sees all three blue jerseys from BYU, but he also sees Andrew Nembhard, who just passed him the ball, and they give it right back to him. It's a long closeout, an easy transition three. And if you try to wall up, that's fine, but you have to have awareness of where the wings are running because they're so quick and they look to attack. Great job distributing the ball. They can strike quickly.
Well, Mark Few's team is so good, and you and I saw them up close and personal last week against a good BYU team that came in here and beat St. Mary's the other night. So the challenge is how good Gonzaga is, and also on the other side of things, Sean, we're so used to these two teams being relatively evenly matched. Randy Bennett's had so many stars over the years this year, partially because of injury, partially no Jordan Ford, no Malik Fitz. Just a little more short-handed than we're used to seeing. This is the first time in 15 years that St. Mary's has started 0-2 in West Coast Conference play.
Uncharted waters for them, but certainly today at shoot-around they were talking about, listen, we got to stay true to who we are. And who they are is a team that wants to play this at a low possession rate. If this gets to a high possession, Gonzaga's going to run away.
Tommy Kuzi has gone from walk-on to one of the best players in the conference, and he gets an assist, so St. Mary's has the first bucket of the game.
And when you make baskets, what does that mean, Dave? It allows you to go back and set up your defense, and that's what gives you the opportunity to slow down Gonzaga.
Well, for St. Mary's, you figure a decent start has to be part of the equation to be competitive tonight. They had such a horrible ending to the game the other night against BYU. St. Mary's scored 2 points in, the last 10 minutes of that game?
They went through over an 8.5-minute stretch where they didn't score a single point, and they allowed BYU to come all the way back in that game.
That was a great look. Wide open shot, 3 for Kyle Bowen, who's not much of a scorer. Interesting that St. Mary's is going with a bigger lineup than usual. They have made a few adjustments for this game.
And part of that is to try to match up with Corey Kispert. And they've got such a Kispert awareness. His name must have been said 1,500 times in their shoot-around.
Yeah, he had his shot rejected. It went off of Watson and out of bounds, so St. Mary's has the ball.
These two programs know each other so well. Mark's upperclassmen probably could run St. Mary's offense. And likewise, the same could be said for a guy like Tommy Kuzi to know exactly what the Gonzaga Bulldogs want to do. The familiarity helps them understand the physicality and the energy that they know that Gonzaga is going to bring.
Fotu with the drive, had it stripped away, out of bounds, and off of St. Mary's, right off of Fotu's leg. Well, nobody other than these two programs has won the West Coast Conference Championship in, the last 15, 16 years. These have been the two powers in this league. Randy Bennett's system, as you mentioned. In a lot of ways, over the years, it has been the perfect foil. If you're going to slow down Gonzaga the way Randy likes to run his program, a little step-back jumper, and that's good for Kispert.
So compact, so on balance. Corey Kispert, one of the best shooters in the country.
Gonzaga is not a great three-point shooting team, which is interesting considering how great they are on offense. Kispert is the guy who drives their three-point shooting. Timmy, a nice block as Logan Johnson tried to take it to the rim.
Dave, you go back, watch the composure, comes off the screen, step in between the legs. Look at the space that he's able to create, and it's that space we so often talk about with guys at the next level. Can you create and manufacture that space? Kispert has figured out how to do it.
Fotu, good catch, then had it ripped away by Suggs, who is just so active on the defensive end and so fast out in transition. Finds Timmy in the lane with one little shot fake, make it 2, gets to the free throw line.
And if he didn't fumble that, I think Suggs scores that. But great awareness of where his trailing big was.
So Drew Timme, who's become one of the best big men in college basketball.
He's on the Wooden Award top 25 list. In the last 2 games, he has been fantastic. He's one of 3 Gonzaga Bulldogs that represent the West Coast on that top 25 list. For the last 2 games for Timme, he started playing through him, in particular the second half of that game against Pepperdine the other night. When they didn't play that great in the first half, they went to Timme and kind of established who they were.
Showing some full court pressure, and it creates a turnover. Watson rips it away. Ayayi will float and miss the shot from short range.
I love the idea, though, of extending out your pressure to try to speed up this game. It's about who can dictate the tempo and who makes the other team uncomfortable. Is it uncomfortable because you play slower, or do you speed somebody out outside of their comfort zone?
Kuzi, extra pass, down low. Mathias toss with the shot clock winding down. Good pass to Johnson, who had his shot partially deflected. Here come the Zags. Watson knew exactly where Suggs was, found him, but he missed the 3. So now the Gales, and over the years, St. Mary's has had so many great shooters. This is a team that just doesn't have the same kind of shooting at all. Kuzi, nifty little move. He couldn't finish.
Drew Timme doing a nice job on the glass early. Remember, it was Timme who had a huge game against St. Mary's in the WCC tournament.
He played well here last year. You and I were here to see that when St. Mary's came in with big expectations of pulling an upset. I mean, Gonzaga was highly ranked last year as well. They had Jordan Ford lighting up the West Coast Conference, one of the best scorers in college basketball, and the Gales got blitzed on this floor.
And that's the thing about this year's St. Mary's team is for so many years you look on the wall at the end zone here and you see guys like Matthew Dellavedova, Patty Mills, Mickey McConnell, Emmett Nars, Stephen Holt, like Jordan Ford. You've had multiple players in multiple years where you've had guards that could really take over the game. This year's team is lacking that.
Fotu for 3, knocks it down.
Mark Few waving his guys saying, let's go, let's push the ball up the floor even after the make.
Timme, great spin move with the left hand.
Advantage Gonzaga. And I think really in their half-court set, you throw it down to number 2 until the defense is forced to collapse, and that's going to open up your perimeter as well as your driving lanes and cutting lanes that we see so frequently this year for Gonzaga.
So here's Tommy Kuzi, really good finisher around the rim. He has turned into, I think, one of the great layup makers in college basketball.
Hard to imagine he was a walk-on for so long of his this is a long portion of his career here at St. Mary's. Just recently he was put on scholarship over the summer.
Sometimes we say former walk-ons, like, yeah, he came as a walk-on, but quickly earned his way. Tommy Kuzi's played tons of games and minutes as a walk-on for this program.
Good value for Randy Bennett.
And he really he's having an excellent year. Suggs went right by him, though, had his shot maybe partially deflected. The St. Mary's run, it doesn't happen very often. Kuzi just kind of probing. Now into the half court. This is the kind of game that the Gales want to play. Kuzi way outside, hits a 3.
Can you imagine if the students were here right now?
Oh my goodness. Usually you and I are packed down courtside and they are breathing down our necks. There
Literally,
might be
sometimes.
I mean, there might not be a school in the country where the students are closer to the announcers than St. Mary's. Oh, another good defensive possession for the Gales. Forced the miss from Kispert.
We saw Gonzaga get off to a little bit of a slower start the other night against Pepperdine.
Bowen put it on the deck. Kuzi.
Oh,
great dish. Toss, dunks it home.
Are you kidding me, though, with the footwork by Tommy Kuzi? That was sensational.
Tell you what, number 12 has come ready to play tonight, the senior. This is a dream start for the Gales, trying to pull off what would be a gigantic upset. They're full of energy on both ends of the floor right now.
They are focused, they are on balance, they are dictating the tempo and the flow of this game early. And Tommy Kuhse, stop, start, change of direction. Young point guards understand it's not how quick you go, but it's how well you can change pace, and can you make those players around you better. Tommy Kuhse just did that for the Gales.
This exclusive presentation of college basketball is presented by 5 Hour Energy Shots. Get it done. Well, number 1 Gonzaga has had so many impressive wins already this college basketball season. One of them came against Tony Bennett and the Virginia Cavaliers, and I think, Sean, it has particular relevance to this game tonight.
Yeah, because we're talking about pace of play, and you have to be much more methodical in your approach. And in this contest, they were able to get Virginia outside their comfort zone and were able to find some offense. When I talked to Mark Few at shoot-around today, he said, look, I feel like that game helped us a lot. But what we have to understand is this team, St. Mary's, is even a little bit more physical. And we saw how physical they were the other night against BYU, especially in that first half. That was his concern. And you look at the fewest possessions in college basketball this year per 40 minutes. St. Mary's is 4th. Virginia's number 1. Gonzaga was still, by the way, able to score 98 points against Virginia. This has been a much slower start for the Bulldogs tonight.
Yeah, it seems almost impossible to score 98 against Tony Bennett's team, but the Zags did it. A similar kind of challenge. I think you're right to point out that physicality, because St. Mary's, they're lacking the shooting we're used to seeing from the Gales, some of the skill maybe, but they are still a big, strong team. Tommy Kuhse's just had a great start to this game. Passed up the 3 and got knocked to the floor by Suggs. Called for the trip.
I think he knows Mike Schmitz is here. And he's like, you know what, this guy evaluates all the NBA guys. And Mike's going to join us here in the second half to talk about some of the guys that he's looking at in the broader spectrum of this year's NBA draft that'll come up in June. But Kuhse's putting on a show.
You think we should make sure Mike's got a little info on Tommy?
Yeah.
He's sitting,
I was going to yell at him.
Yeah,
but
he's a ways away from us. I'm looking forward to that. Logan Johnson goes to the rim and had a wide open look, just missed the layup.
This is where you got to score in transition, though, if you're Gonzaga. And good defensive transition by St. Mary's.
Andrew Nemhard trying to do his Tommy Kuhse impersonation. Suggs drives the lane. He got fouled by Johnson.
Now, Jalen Suggs has such a unique ability to take over a game, and this is one of those things that if you want to be the number 1 overall pick in the NBA draft, you're on the road, you're down by 5, your team's a little sluggish. What are you going to do to put them in a situation to be successful?
2 fouls on Logan Johnson, so he goes to the bench. I'm sure a little frustrated, too, by some missed opportunities on the offensive end. Quinn Clinton has come in for the Gales. Kispert floater came up short, and Fotu with the defensive board.
Team rebounding right now. Every time a shot goes up, you're seeing 5 white jerseys converge on the paint.
Toss, got a great bounce pass from Kuhse, who's just been everywhere. How about this beginning to this game? Timmy in transition from Suggs.
Timmy's like, I've been watching this guy Tommy Kuhse play lately, and I think I can do the same thing. I mean, really good awareness, back-to-back possessions by the point guards to find their bigs.
Matthias Toss, he's had a good start to this game himself. Hands back to his point guard. Kuhse was trying to find him. They left Bowen open, who's not much of an outside shooter. Suggs got a hand on that pass. That might have saved an open look. Fotu 3 right side. Hits his second of the first half.
They have Gonzaga chasing right now defensively. And when you start chasing, you start giving up wide open looks.
St. Mary's challenge is, even when they've been wide open this season, they haven't always knocked them down. If they can do that tonight, they have a chance in this game. Suggs, what a beautiful move that was.
Excellent job being on balance, using the glass. This is where the Gonzaga Bulldogs need to tighten up, is at the defensive end of the floor. And sometimes you're going through multiple screens and it feels like you're just treading water trying to get through mud.
Clinton hits the 3.
And did you see Jalen Suggs trying to close out? He was stumbling because he was fighting through another offensive player to try to get there. He's late.
Well, points from the sophomore from New Zealand, Quinn Clinton, are a bonus for Randy Bennett. St. Mary's is 4 of 5 from three-point range. Suggs toss switched on him, so Suggs shot the three. No good. Tommy Kuzi the other night against BYU. How many minutes did he spend on the bench in that game?
0.
Not a one.
He plays as much as anybody in the country.
Toss, tried the three, the big man, and then Bowen committed the foul.
Dave, they missed that one, but the last couple of possessions have been absolutely picture perfect for Randy Bennett and the St. Mary's Gales against the #1 team in the country. A little gamble, you force the defense to collapse, you kick out. It's a long closeout for Suggs. And then on the next possession, watch Suggs. He gets caught up by his own guy. No hand, no chance. Gales knocking him down early.
Well, St. Mary's team that started 0-2 in the WCC for the first time in 15 years has come to play against their rivals tonight, leading #1 Gonzaga 22-11. Some headlines from around college hoops. I mean, it's a day where we've seen some big upsets, Sean. I don't know if we'll see one here tonight, but maybe.
And we'll talk about that Michigan upset to Minnesota in particular, because you just saw Michigan the other night. James Bouknight, though, not being available for UConn. They've had some success without him, but that's 27% of their offense. Alabama continues to roll in the SEC. And how about Washington State on the women's side? They were preseason predicted 12th, Dave, 12th in the conference. And they're nationally ranked for the first time in program history. Unbelievable job up there on the women's basketball side.
Congrats to the Cougs. Nemhard, who's celebrating a birthday today, had a wide open layup, missed it, and looked like he hurt himself. Thankfully, I think he's okay. He stays not just in the game, but he's moving around all right on the defensive end. But that was 2 points that the Zags figured they had in the column. Fotu had nowhere to go with the ball and found Clinton. Shot clock winding down. Clinton had his shot rejected by Umar Ballo, who's in off the Gonzaga bench.
I'm going to call that a shot clock violation, have it go the other way. Still, though, defensively, Gonzaga is frantically closing out, Dave. Like, they don't seem like they're closing out with great spacing, understanding, and awareness of where the Gales are. And even on that possession, it's a lot of work just to try to keep St. Mary's away from getting a clean shot.
Nemhard couldn't finish again.
Conversely, they're not making the Gales defend very long at all.
No. Clinton will shoot the three left side. I'm not sure that's the shot that St. Mary's wanted.
It's one of those shots, if you go in, you go, yeah, it's exactly what we wanted.
Cook, floater. He draws the foul. Aaron Cook, who is a really good player on this deep Gonzaga team, he doesn't get a chance to play as much as he would for a lot of programs, but a grad transfer who was a star for Southern Illinois and has become a nice role player for the Zags.
Well, think about this. When he transferred in, he had no idea that Andrew Nemhard was also going to transfer in and then be immediately eligible. So he's thinking, hey, you know what? I'm going to go to Gonzaga. I'm going to be Jalen Suggs' experienced backup, and I'm going to play a ton of minutes on a really good team. He's maybe sacrificed more than any player expected to due to the fact that Nemhard became eligible, and he's had no issues with it whatsoever. He's thrilled to be part of a team that has a legitimate chance to win a national championship.
Shows up every day, works hard. Oh, by the way, got a 4.0 GPA in the first semester as a student. Fotu cuts to the basket and high off the glass with two shot blockers in his face.
Randy Bennett has to be absolutely thrilled with the way that his team has competed here for the first 12 minutes.
And the move to put Dan Fotu in the starting lineup alongside a couple other bigger players has really paid off. Cook shoots the three. It's good.
Yeah, he can do it. Averaged 15 points per game last year. And there's going to be a game this year where he's going to have 20 points. We saw that the other night with Anton Watson when he had 23 against Portland. We get so caught up talking about the three guys that Suggs, Kispert, and Timmy, that we tend to not focus on the fact they got a lot of weapons.
Ballo trying to stay with Kuzi, fell to the ground. Kuzi gets the loose ball and then missed the shot. Yeah, he almost fumbled it out of bounds. Not a lineup that the Zags have used a lot, this combination. Mark Few kind of searching. Ayayi found an opening.
How good has Joel Ayayi been? I mean, just sensational. First triple-double in program history against Portland.
Which there are two notable things about that. Joel Ayayi got a triple-double. Also, the Zags had never had one. All the great players never had a triple-double. Toss rushed it and then rushed his follow. My goodness. Got to make one of those two. Matthias Toss from point-blank range. Well, that's a break for the #1 Zags, who continue to trail here. St. Mary's, their longtime rivals in the WCC, are playing an excellent first half. They lead by 5. Dave Fleming, Sean Farnham back here in Moraga, where the #1 team in the country is getting challenged here in this first half, and their head coach is not all that thrilled about it. 22-17 St. Mary's. Two coaches who have had just terrific success in this West Coast Conference. Consecutive 20 or more win seasons, active coaches in college hoops. Coach K, Bill Self, and then these two, Mark Few and Randy Bennett.
That's why people talk about the West Coast Conference, and you can look at the winning percentages over the last decade plus, and they're amongst the best in the country. I mean, Randy Bennett has done a tremendous job building up St. Mary's program. And on the flip side, it goes without saying what Mark Few has been able to do. He's the winningest active coach of any coach in college basketball. But then you look at the top 25 list, you got to throw BYU on there. Dave Rose and now Mark Pope and what they've been able to do in that program. The West Coast Conference last year, people forget, they would have had 3 teams in the NCAA tournament. And most likely, they would have been the home team, meaning that they were the better seeded team. It was a great year last year for the West Coast Conference, and this year they're trying to recapture some of that magic.
Kispert cuts into the lane and flips up a little floater, rattled out. Loose ball handled by the Gales.
How many offensive rebounds do the Gonzaga Bulldogs have?
That would be 0.
Yeah. And that says a lot, because St. Mary's athletically, you're looking on paper going, man, the superior athletes are on Gonzaga. They should be able to get on the glass and have success, and that's not the case. St. Mary's has been the team that's been much more active on the offensive glass.
Quentin for 3, no good after the freshman Mitchell Saxon, who's in for the first time, missed one from close range. Nemhard fired it almost into the Gales bench. Here's Ayayi. This shot might have hit the rim. And Gonzaga's trying to play their pace.
The key, though, is it sometimes can be fool's gold, where you try to go so fast and we got to play faster, that you become the team that's rushing. And I think right now, when I look at Gonzaga, they're rushing. Joel Ayayi, that wasn't a good shot. You got 2 guys on you, a help side defensive player coming over from the weak side. That means there's guys open. Jump stop, be a little bit more patient, force the defense to have to shift, and then you'll find an easier seam to attack.
You're seeing the body language of Mark Few. I think also that on this end of the floor, even that last possession, the Gales had 2 really good looks, missed them both, but the end result wasn't what the head coach of the Zags was concerned about.
Now, you're looking at a Gonzaga offense averaging 96 points per game. #1 in the country in field goal percentage offense. They're shooting 35% so far in this game.
Saxon had it picked. So the freshman's come in, missed a shot, and turned it over. Kispert, quick release 3, too strong.
Quick shot means that you have to go back and you have to get in a stance and you're going to have to defend.
That one way off the mark from Saxon.
That was a waffle.
Yeah.
Remember that when I brought that up last year? That was my new term.
And did it stick? Has it?
Yeah, I mean, I've only called a couple of games since then, but yeah, it has. And a waffle, for all of you at home that don't understand what that is, means that it is such a poor shot that it does not even hit iron, but it just hits the backboard. That's a waffle.
Randy Bennett to his young player, if you shoot waffles, you go to the bench. Sorry, sit down. Matthias Toss.
I'm jealous, though, because waffles makes me think of my mom's pancakes, and she made them this morning, and even though I'm from up here, unable to have and enjoy her waffles at home.
Pancakes, though, you got those.
Yeah.
Toss with the left hand, no. And they're going to call Bowen, I think, for going over the back. Well, the hot shooting of the Gales has fallen off, and yet they're still up by 5.
They're plus 11 on the glass, Dave. They're plus 11 on a team that, by the way, is like plus 10 on the season. And given their schedule and who they've played, that's a tremendous thing to remember, is that they've played top-flight teams and have been able to dominate on the glass, and they're getting dominated tonight.
Cook passed up the three to drive to the bucket, got cut off by Kuzi, but still found an opening to lay it in. Much-needed basket.
And this gap in this hole kind of reminds me a little bit of the other night against BYU that happened late in the second half. They had a 7-point lead, and then their offense went cold, and slowly but surely you saw the Cougars come back and take over that game. They can ill afford to have a long drought tonight against Gonzaga.
Toss is going to try it again, it looks like. Instead, he passed it out. Shot clock down to 5. Somebody's got to shoot. Bowen will not get it off. He made the shot, but he didn't release it in time.
And Mike Reed, one of the officials, says, do we want to take a look at that, or are we certain? And they're going to look at it as he goes in. Yeah, it's still in his hands. I don't think this will be a long review at all. Mike Reed, one of the more veteran officials in the West Coast.
I would say one of the best officials in college hoops. Chris Rastatter and Ryan Holmes are also alongside tonight, so it is an experienced veteran crew, which we always get for Gonzaga against St. Mary's. Over the years, this game has produced so many classics, and there was something deep in St. Mary's. You mentioned the drought against BYU the other night. It was ugly. St. Mary's has had an up and down season so far. There was something, though, that told us that if the Gales are going to play their A game this year, it's going to come in this matchup.
Well, think back on the first year you and I covered this series, and it was back in 2010. It was the first year, by the way, that St. Mary's found a win up at the Kennel. And it was Mickey McConnell with the shot over the top to seeing Elise Harris hit the big three in Las Vegas. You and I have been in a lot of great games. Maybe this one has the makings of being yet another classic between two of the premier programs in the West region.
With John Crispin, I'm Kevin Connors. Coming up on the Jeep Halftime Report, we'll look back on a wild day in the Big Ten, including Minnesota's big victory over Michigan, plus Baylor doing just enough to survive in Lubbock. John, what have you seen so far in this first half?
So far, limiting possessions. St. Mary's has done a terrific job of slowing the game down, just taking the pace out of the game and limiting possessions, making Gonzaga play with efficiency.
Second test this week for the Zags. We are charging like a buffalo, Sean Farnham and Dave Fleming into the Halftime Report coming up.
My man KC is so thrilled right now. Bills Mafia in the house. KC, I am with you in spirit. We talked about it all week in Bristol. You're up 17-3 right now in the fourth. The Bills looking to advance in the AFC.
I don't think he was feeling all that confident maybe a half hour ago or so. But
a 101-yard interception return for a touchdown, though, makes you feel a little better.
Kevin's feeling a little better now. Meanwhile, look, this is a game that is not going the way the Zags wanted it to, and Kevin and John both talked about it, how the pace of this game is definitely in favor of St. Mary's. Now, the Gales haven't scored in almost 5 minutes. It's remarkable that they still lead the #1 team in the country. Jalen Suggs had a long stint on the bench, comes back in the game, thought he was fouled. Instead, here comes St. Mary's. Gales have to find a way to get the ball in the basket. It hasn't happened in way too long. Logan Johnson down low. Switch to his right hand. Maybe that's the key for him.
The floor spacing just been outstanding offensively. Lucky that's not an offensive. It was.
It was.
A little bit delayed on the call, but you see, this is what I'm talking about. St. Mary's in control, playing with poise, understands exactly how they want to do it. Right now, the team that's not playing with the poise is the team that we've seen with the poise all season long. And that's the Gonzaga Bulldogs. They are forcing the issue. And when you start forcing things at the offensive end, usually you're not going to see the kind of success that you want to. And that comes with being patient, Dave. You have to have patience when the pace slows down.
2 fouls for Suggs. Matches the number of points he has in his first half. He's back on the bench. Under 4 in the first half. Toss. Didn't go. Bowen's been active on the glass. Timmy got great position, and he scores with a foul.
And I don't know why they're not going to him every possession. He's going to be their most effective player right now. And the way that they're closing out and trying to take away the transition three, it's going to allow you to have that seam where you can quickly dump it down and not have anybody that can collapse on him. And he's such a great passer that, Dave, you pass it down to him, he can kick it right back out.
He's also very neat, likes to have his shirt tucked in just the right way.
It's like working with you.
And I have everything buttoned up.
I always have to make sure my suit game's tight when I'm working with you because you're very critical.
Pay attention to the details. Get the details right. Second leading scorer in the conference behind his teammate. Converts the three-point play. Johnson for three, right side, off the iron. Has Gonzaga's defense gotten better, or is St. Mary's just missing shots?
St. Mary's just missing shots. I mean, the shot attempts and the looks are still really high percentage, good, clean looks.
Now Nemhard got himself wide open, and that one ties the game at 24.
And this is where sometimes you look for other players. Suggs is out. Who do you lean on? Remember, when Suggs went out against West Virginia earlier this year, Andrew Nemhard was the player that stepped up for the Bulldogs.
Bowen almost carried it. Fotu open, and he airballed it. Too strong, Timmy. Good rebound. Here come the Zags. Chance to take a lead.
Look at Timmy. He's open. They missed him.
Kispert in and out.
Contested three. Where are the back cuts and the pressure releases that we've seen all season long for Gonzaga? They're not there right now.
Logan Johnson starting to feel a little more confident. That was good defense, though, around the rim. Great pass. Ayayi, the catch and the lay-in.
First time we've seen a transition bucket that was a free, clean look for Gonzaga, and Randy Bennett says, yeah, we're not going to allow that to happen again. A quick timeout for Randy Bennett. His team's been in it from the start, but if he sees more of this, he knows that number one is going to create a gap and run away with it.
All right, two big games for you Monday on ESPN. First, in the ACC, Florida State, they're an ascending team against number 16 Louisville, that one at 7 Eastern. And then in the Big 12 for a huge game, number 2 Baylor. And they did have to escape. It was close today against a good Texas Tech team against number 6 Kansas. That's at 9 Eastern on Monday. It is also a Sonic blockbuster.
Now, you talk about the top tier in college basketball, and you saw Michigan earlier this week, and we'll get into that because I want to get your thoughts on that game. You had the Wisconsin-Michigan game, which was one of the best performances we've seen all year. But when you think about Baylor and Gonzaga, that's been the dialogue all year long. Baylor and Gonzaga. And Baylor in the Big 12, they've got a couple marquee matchups coming up, and that one on Monday nights can't miss television.
Yeah, Baylor, you can make the argument. Now the Zags here, after struggling for much of this first half, have opened up a 4-point lead, 16-2 run. And what's notable about that? Well, a big part of it is the 2 in 7.5 minutes. But you could argue Baylor maybe a little more balanced offense and defense than the Zags. Kuzi couldn't save it. It did deflect over to Clinton, though, so the Gales have it with the shot clock down under 10. Kuzi to toss, and he draws a foul.
Now, I'll go back to that Michigan game real quick.
Yeah.
You did Michigan-Wisconsin with Dan Dockich. What a game for the Wolverines. Now, I know they lost today against Minnesota. They got punched in the face today. They did not respond. But were you blown away with how disruptive they were defensively and the efficiency in which you saw offensively out of the Wolverines?
The takeaway for me was the defense.
Yeah.
I mean, they were really good on offense, but they smothered a good experienced Wisconsin team on defense. And to me, it feels like Juwan Howard has taken all the beeline stuff, all the good, smooth offense, passing, cuts, find open shooters, and then combined it with this tenacity on defense that sort of has that Juwan Howard signature. It is a really good Michigan team no matter what happened today.
Yeah, I think Juwan Howard has just done a tremendous job, and they have one of the best recruiting classes in the country coming in next year. The concern I have right now in this game is the waning stages of this first half. How many clean looks are we now seeing? How's the man movement without the ball in their hands for Gonzaga? It's starting to look like Gonzaga, and they're opening this thing up going to the break.
Ayayi's played a solid first half. Kuzi to toss down low, and he had a smaller player on him, just could not finish. Matthias Toss has had a lot of good looks in this first half.
He had a lot of good looks against BYU and missed a lot of them as well.
Yeah, 7 points, but he's 3 of 9. Shot clock again winding down. Here's Clinton for 3 right side. That one was off the mark. Rebound controlled by Nembhard. Ayayi, plenty of time. Ayayi steps through and finishes with the finger roll.
So smooth in transition. Randy Bennett already walked into the locker room. Not the way he wanted to end the half.
Bowen comes up short, and that's exactly what happened to St. Mary's in the last, not just few minutes, many minutes of the first half. The Gales struggled big time.
The Zags were struggling most of the half, and then all of a sudden you look up, they've got the lead. They're shooting 48% from the field.
Frisco Bay Area, we start the second half. The #1 team in the country. Didn't always look like it in the first half, but they have a 32-25 lead over their rivals, the St. Mary's Gales. Dave Fleming, Sean Farnham back with you. Sean, how did Gonzaga finally start to kick it into gear?
Well, part of it is Gonzaga, and the other part of it is that St. Mary's fell back into the same trap they did in the later stages of that BYU game. Offensively, they just fell apart. They missed easy shots. They turned the ball over, and when you turn the ball over against Gonzaga, they turn it into 2 points. And a little bit of a rush shot on that one by Logan Johnson out in transition. Joel Ayayi was phenomenal down the stretch of that first half, but the stars and the standouts for the Gonzaga Bulldogs, not the normal expected ones. It wasn't Corey Kispert. It wasn't Jalen Suggs. It was Joel Ayayi. It was Aaron Cook and Drew Timme. And I would anticipate, Dave, very similar to what we saw the other night against Pepperdine. Drew Timme's a perfect 3 for 3. He needs to have 3 shots in the first 4 minutes of this second half.
Yeah, you see the field goal shooting for St. Mary's. Missed 15 of their last 16 shots from the field in the first half. That turned into a 20-3 run. They're still in the game. The shots were falling early for St. Mary's. Maybe some of those can go down here in the first few minutes of the second half.
And that's the difference between this year's team and other teams that we've seen. Jordan Ford, you have Jordan Ford, there's no way you're missing 15 out of your final 16 shots. You know, Matthew Dellavedova, Mickey McConnell, Bo Levesque even. I love you, Bo. Even they're going to find a way to make shots. You have a Brad Waldo that you can play through down low on the block. This year's team, they don't have that shot maker. They don't have that guy that you can count on consistently. And when they go cold, man, it goes ice cold.
Well, let's see. Still a rivalry game. Gales trying to kick it back into gear here. Zags start off with the ball. Second half underway. Jalen Suggs had 2 fouls, didn't play big minutes, blew right by for the layup.
That's what we're accustomed to seeing, right? So you go to the end of the first half, you have some momentum. Second half comes out. Jalen Suggs back out on the floor, playing with a little bit more poise.
He never looks like he's in a hurry, and yet he moves so quickly. Fotu, that was a tough shot.
Fotu now 4 of 6 shooting on the game.
He's probably been their best offensive player. There's Kispert. He's going to try to get himself going.
Look at those first 2 possessions. Where are the Gonzaga Bulldogs going, Dave? They had a +10 advantage in the paint. First 2 shot attempts for them in the paint.
It's funny you bring that up, too, because St. Mary's rebounded the ball well, but they inside just are overmatched in terms of scoring. They have size, they have strength on this Gales team. There's Johnson for 3 in and out. Zags want to run. A little 2-man game. Suggs had his shot challenged, got his own miss, puts it back in with a foul.
As expected. And honestly, you and I talked at halftime, and you kind of just felt like the second half was going to have a flip of the switch. And there's no secret to Gonzaga's success. They average about 50 points per game inside the paint. You mentioned the first half. They're not a great 3-point shooting team overall. Well, they're averaging 96 points per game, and 50 of them are coming in the paint.
Some pressure from Gonzaga. St. Mary's breaks it. Biggest lead for the Zags here right now, 39-27, first couple minutes of the second half. Toss against Timmy, backing his way in. Now the double team came. That was effective. Bowen launches up a three and airballed it.
Much better attention to detail by Gonzaga at the defensive end of the floor. So often is the case, the defense can help your offense, right? You lock in mentally at that end, and it carries over to the offensive end. If you allow the offense to dictate how you play the defensive end, that's where you kind of get chaotic and you're not as successful.
Suggs draws another foul. Jalen Suggs looks like a frustrated player and a determined player here in these first few minutes of the second half to get his game going.
And Mike Schmitz is going to join us to talk NBA prospects, and obviously Jalen Suggs in the discussion for potentially the #1 overall pick.
Makes the first free throw. Our Super Tuesday doubleheader right here on ESPN, also on the app. Number 10, Tennessee. Very good Tennessee team in the SEC against Florida. That's first at 7 Eastern on Tuesday. And then number 19, Duke against Pitt. Hey, Pitt's 6-2. It's easy in this strange year to kind of lose track of some teams and how they're doing. That should be a good one in the ACC. St. Mary's needs a timeout. Zags have gone on a run, and it extended from the first half into the second half. The head coach of the Gales not real thrilled. It's 41-27 Gonzaga. 41-27, that's the lead for Gonzaga. 17:39 to go in Moraga against their rivals from the WCC, the Gales of St. Mary's. Jalen Suggs been extremely active in these first few minutes of the second half. This is sort of what I was talking about in the first half. Gonzaga, #1 offensive efficiency. They are the #1 scoring offense, according to Ken Palm, these efficiency numbers. But Baylor and Michigan, maybe you could you argue, a little more balance between. Gonzaga's been a good defensive team. Baylor and Michigan maybe a little more balanced?
Well, those two programs are the only two in the country that are in the top 10 in both offense and defensive efficiency heading into today. I think those numbers are going to change a little bit after what Minnesota was able to do against Michigan, in particular at the defensive end of the floor. But the balance is certainly there. I think with the strength of schedule, though, that Gonzaga has played, and it's the #1 strength of record in college basketball right now based on their non-conference schedule, it's tough to fault them too much.
Fotu three, good. Dan Fotu's playing a good game.
Much needed basket for St. Mary's.
Yeah, this one's not over. Kispert curls into the three and came up short.
And we got an injured player down.
Kyle Bowen, who the Gales already have two key players.
He just slapped the floor.
Who are hurt, and Bowen's really in a lot of pain.
Randy Bennett doesn't have a deep bench. You mentioned the injuries. Alex Dukas, who is probably their best player coming into this year, and they were expecting to have a huge role. He's been out. He's been hurt.
You know, it's interesting. They have a freshman, Jabe Mullins, who's been playing a lot of minutes. He has not played at all in this game. See if we can see. Wow.
I believe that his left ankle just kind of tweaked on him as he kind of stepped to plane.
Good look from Kuzi to Quinn Clinton, who just came in for Bowen, and he knocks down the three.
And see, that's where Jalen Suggs just need to be solid. I mean, he's flying around on the floor. You like it, but you want to see it with better purpose.
That was some purpose.
Yeah. He gives up three. He's going to try to get the old-fashioned three at the other end of the floor. I had a great conversation with Jalen today after shoot-around. And talking to him, I said, oh, listen, a lot of comparisons, and I know Mike Schmitz is going to be joining us here. And I said, who do you study? Who do you try to model your game after? He goes, I love the way, the joy and the ferociousness that Russell Westbrook plays with. And he goes, but then I really like the control and the pace and the fact that nobody can speed up Dame Lillard. And those are the two guys I really try to channel when I'm out on the floor.
Dame Lillard, who grew up and played his high school basketball just a few miles from where we sit right now in the East Bay. Johnson got cut off baseline. No look pass to Clinton, who shoots another three in and out. Suggs pulls up from way outside and came up short.
I don't think that was a great shot by Jalen Suggs. Not because he missed it, but you've had so much success attacking the basket. There's no need to step back there and take that quick one.
Well, Sean mentioned it. Mike Schmitz is here in person. He's one of our NBA draft experts at ESPN. And so we're going to put a headset on Mike and talk to him about Jalen Suggs and some of the other players here tonight coming up next. Beautiful night in San Francisco. We're just across the bay in Moraga, where St. Mary's is down 11 to number one Gonzaga, 46-35, 15:31 to go in the second half. Very nice to have Mike Schmitz with us tonight. Mike is one of our top NBA draft analysts. Mike, welcome. Really nice to see you in person at an actual hoops game and get your thoughts on some of these Zags and St. Mary's players. How you doing?
I'm great. Thank you guys for having me. Appreciate it.
He's got the fancy backdrop with the pipes behind him.
Got the pipes here?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
You're looking good. Of course, let's start with the player that everybody wants to talk about, and that's Jalen Suggs. You talk about the top of the draft. This is a guy, seemingly to me, with the way that he's played all season long and leading his team, that he's moving up as we take a look at your draft grades with him. And I'm going to get into the grades. There's one that we left off I want to talk about. Toughness, court vision, defense, all A's. Shooting, he's got a B. What do you like most about his game?
His toughness, his competitiveness. I mean, he's the best player on the best team in the country at 19 years old, and that's what scouts love about him. They love that he's a two-way player. He makes everyone around him better. I think he could have a Drew Holiday type of impact at the next level. Now, you saw the shooting there. He's 2 of his last 15 from 3, okay, over his last 6 games. So that's clearly where he needs to improve. But he's one of 4 contenders for the number 1 pick in this draft.
All right, now, I will say I took one of your grades off. You have him as a C for length. A C. He's a guard. What does a C for length mean to you?
Well, his wingspan is +2, so relative to his height, I would say. And maybe we're a little bit spoiled with Cade Cunningham, who's got a 7'2" wingspan, and he can play the point guard position. But no, Suggs is a total stud and the real deal just because of that toughness, the competitiveness, does it on both ends of the floor.
Well, Sean, Mike mentioned how, according to you and lots of people, I mean, he's obviously in the mix. Do you think he's in line to be one of those top handful of picks in the draft?
I do. I'd be shocked if he went outside the top 4, to be honest. You know, I look at Cade Cunningham. I think he's probably the number 1 guy at this point. Evan Mobley, the big man out of USC, he's a perfect fit in the modern game. And then Jalen Green, who's been developing in the G League Ignite program. I mean, he is showtime in the open court. So those are the 4 candidates I see for the number 1.
All right, so we posted it on the gram that I was going to bring up a story I saw today at Shoot-Around to you. And watching Jalen, I talked to him a little bit afterwards, but in walkthrough today, one of the guys that was on the scout team was in the wrong position on a play, and without the coach saying anything, Jalen was like, hey, man, you got to clear out because this guy's going to be cutting from behind, and did it about a second and a half before the next person came behind him. And one of the things I asked him, I said, how'd you know that's so detailed? And he goes, I was a quarterback. And as a quarterback, you got to study film. You have to have the details down. And that's one of the areas that I think he's just a difference maker. The amount of film that he watches to prepare himself. And that next level, when you can actually implement and have an understanding of what your opponent's going to do on the quick turnarounds you have in the NBA, I think that's something GMs are going to absolutely love about Jalen Suggs.
And they're going to learn more about him as we get deeper into the draft process. But, no, you're completely right. I mean, he's going to be a coach's dream just because of his feel for the game. And we've seen it before. I mean, quarterbacks, they transition perfectly to that point guard position. And that's really the thing I didn't know about Suggs coming in. I've seen him at USA Basketball and around other elite players, but I've never really seen it be his show. And you can obviously see the passing talent this year with Gonzaga.
All right, we're talking to Mike Schmitz, one of our top NBA draft analysts. He is here in person tonight watching this Gonzaga St. Mary's game alongside us. Jalen Suggs is going to head to the bench. Corey Kispert stays out on the floor. I wanted to ask you, Mike, about your thoughts about Corey. Had a chance maybe to go to the draft last year, decided to come back, work on some stuff, have a chance for a national championship. Your impressions of Corey Kispert?
Yeah, he's plug and play in the NBA. I think he made the right decision coming back to school because he's a projected lottery pick now. You know, he's shooting 49% from three on 6.5 attempts per game, over 70% from two. He reminds me a little bit of Joe Harris with the Nets. And Joe just had a big payday, signed a $75 million deal. So I really like his floor as a guy who can space the floor and defend as well.
The big thing for me is the intangibles that you get with him, his leadership. I asked him, I said, what does leadership mean to you? He says, Sean, I don't want to lead from the front, and I don't want to lead from the back. I want to lead from the middle. And he goes, to me, you got to personalize and understand everybody responds differently. You can't have just one leadership style. You have to know your teammates. And I think that's something that, you know, we talk about being Joe Harris. That's a role player at the next level, which is what Corey will be. That's not you know, downplaying his ability. That means you could have a 10, 12-year career and make a ton of money at the next level. Those intangibles, good locker room guy, he checks all those boxes.
Yeah, and NBA teams want players from Gonzaga, like we've seen with Villanova, with Duke, with Kentucky. They want guys who are mature, who know how to play, and who have won at a high level, and that's Corey Kispert to a T.
Dave Fleming, Sean Farnham here in Moraga, where the #1 Gonzaga Bulldogs struggled a bit in the first half. St. Mary's, their rivals for many, many years in the WCC. And this game is not over yet. 13 minutes to go. It's only an 11-point lead for the Zags. But Mike Schmitz is with us, NBA draft analyst, talking about some of the prospects on this Gonzaga team. Tommy Kuhse played a very solid game. Came up short on his three. We saw Joel Ayayi, Mike, sort of glide in transition, lay one in. Johnson for three, yes! So the Gales chip away at the lead. Is Ayayi an NBA prospect?
Yeah, he is. I think if he were in this year's draft, he would certainly hear his name called. I think he has a chance to be a first rounder if he goes back to school. There he is cutting. He's incredible moving off the ball. I think that's where he's improved during his time at Gonzaga. He's had to fit in alongside other really, really good guards, and that wasn't always the case when I first evaluated him as a 16-year-old out in France. So he's improved as a shooter. He's gotten tougher, and I do think he has a chance to play in the NBA someday.
I think the biggest area he needs to continue to grow in is at the defensive end.
Yep.
He's got to be a stopper at the next level.
He's good at that, though.
Yeah, no question. His cutting, his off-ball movement. But you're right, Sean. He's got to be a stopper, and he's gotten better off the ball. He's been a great rebounder this year, but certainly still room to improve.
Mike, great to have you here in person. Great to get your thoughts on some of these Zags who are so talented, futures at the next level, but also focused on this level. The #1 team in the country. Yeah, he's got 16 now. Thanks for being with us, Mike.
Thanks for having me, guys. Appreciate it.
54-42, Gonzaga with the lead. We'll be back right after this. Well, for any of you who were tuning into the football game in upstate New York, the weather is a little different here in the Bay Area. Just a gorgeous night in San Francisco, across the Bay Bridge in Moraga. Gonzaga with a 54-42 lead over the St. Mary's Gales. And Joel Ayayi, who is having a terrific year, had a triple-double recently, has played a heck of a second half.
We focus so much on Suggs, Kispert, and Timmy, but Ayayi has been absolutely lights out. Not just tonight, but really over the last 5 games, averaging almost 16 points per game. He's the leading rebounder on the team.
A little bit spoiled.
He can facilitate the offense really, really well. And I just think that he's the type of player that can make a difference for the Gonzaga Bulldogs. When you try to take away the top 3, he can open up your offense because of his ability to sprint and run the floor.
So he's got 16 to lead the Zags. I mean, he is in transition. He is so smooth. Had a triple-double, the first in program history. Think of all the great Gonzaga players. And Mike Schmitz, who was with us a few moments ago, mentioned it. I mean, Gonzaga in the NBA right now having a huge amount of success with the players who are playing at such a high level. They had never had a player have a triple-double until last week, Joel Ayayi.
Rotation's a lot better on this possession defensively for Gonzaga.
Gales trying to hang in. Dan Fotu almost had his pocket picked by Ayayi, then threw it away, but it was tipped by Nembhard, so out of bounds with 3 on the shot clock.
The conference play is challenging. I mean, there's people turning over going, wait, we heard this offense for Gonzaga. They score over 85 every single game this season. They got 54 almost midway through the second half. A lot of that has to do with the pacing of St. Mary's and great execution on that out of bounds underneath to find and manufacture some scoring.
On a day where there have been some big upsets in college basketball, we thought early in this one that this might be one as well. Great look from Cook to Timmy. And they're not going to say the basket counts. They're going to say foul before the shot. Drew Timme is going to lose that argument. He's trying to play referee.
When players play referees, have you ever seen them be able to, like, overturn a call? Have they ever convinced the real officials that, like, hey, I was right, you were wrong?
Maybe at the next level. Maybe Michael Jordan did it a couple times.
All right, but at the college level.
I never have.
No.
Not one time.
Neither have I.
Timmy's going to set a screen. Kyle Bowen back in the game. That's good news for St. Mary's. He hit the floor in a heap a few moments ago. Timmy, did he get the shot off? No. Shot clock violation. That does not happen to Gonzaga very often.
No, and that speaks to how connected St. Mary's is defensively in this game, and they need to be. They go through long periods of time where their offense gets real stagnant, and that's the only reason they don't have the lead. They started off outstanding in this game. Had a 10-point lead at one point in time.
Fotu along the baseline, had his shot blocked from behind by Timmy, and then Kispert comes away with a loose ball. Timmy the catch, the spin move. I'm going to say another foul. To the point you were making a moment ago. The folks missed the first half, just joining us here in the second half. Gonzaga offense not quite. This is a game of two completely different styles. Gonzaga plays as fast as anybody in the country. St. Mary's plays as slow as anybody in the country. And for the most part tonight, the Gales have been able to dictate the style of play in this game. Gonzaga has started to take over. They're up by double figures. Cook with the travel, but the style of play has mostly been dictated by St. Mary's.
And you think about the start of the season, it's been 13 consecutive games in which Gonzaga has scored more than 85 points. Outside of those LMU teams with Kimball and Gathers, the only team in the last 40 years to do that is Oklahoma back in 1987-88. That streak might come to an end tonight with the way this pace of this game has been going.
And that has happened so many times. Gale's got a good bounce, though, and Bowen stuck in the follow. St. Mary's would be a lot closer if they'd made some layups. Ayayi on the attack. Ayayi, another nice move, but he missed the shot, and then it goes out of bounds off of him.
The end of the first half to the beginning stage of the second half, Gonzaga was in great rhythm. Mark Few doesn't like what he's seeing right now. His team is the one that is disjointed and not connected.
You know, Jalen Suggs is he's getting ready to come back in the game, so I don't think it's a big problem. He's kind of limping around. He's been messing with his shoe a lot tonight. So we'll just keep an eye on what's going on with Jalen Suggs, who will come back in the game. By the way, we have a moment. Chance to remind you that two big games coming up on Monday right here on ESPN. They'll stream live on the app. Florida State's playing really well. Another good win for Leonard Hamilton's team today. They go up in the ACC against number 16 Louisville. That's at 7 Eastern on Monday. And then in the Big 12, maybe the matchup of the night and one of the matchups of the year, a Sonic blockbuster. Number 6 Kansas, number 2 Baylor, 9 Eastern right here on ESPN. If you haven't seen Baylor, I mean, Baylor maybe doesn't have the star power that Gonzaga does in terms of national name recognition for their very best players, but Baylor is a super talented, deep, balanced team.
I think now we've got a timeout by St. Mary's, and they're taking a full timeout now as Randy Bennett. So players, that gives us more time to talk about Butler, Jared Butler, who is a sensational guard, and we touched on the balance that Baylor has, and I think Gonzaga fans kind of have in their mindset, hey, look, this team and the way they performed all season long, and even in a tight game tonight, they're going to be the favorite in every single game. And there's a very good chance that this team could go undefeated in the regular season entering into the NCAA tournament. But it's about those potential matchups with a team like Baylor. And who is Baylor? Well, Baylor defends about as well as anybody in the country. Their depth at the guard position is outstanding with Mitchell, Teague, and Butler. And Jared Butler started slow, but man, did he close in that game today. And it's a big reason why they were able to win that contest against Texas Tech.
Be a heck of a matchup. They were scheduled to play Gonzaga and Baylor earlier this year, and that game was COVIDed out. And it's not impossible. Gonzaga is going to have an open date. Mark Few told us last week that he will be on the phone for any opportunities to play another out-of-conference game against one of the best teams in the country. Who knows how it'll all shake down? So much of it is dependent on other teams' schedules and games that get canceled. Are teams willing to just get on the airplane and fly somewhere and play a game on short notice? But Mark Few wants another one of these high-profile non-conference games before the NCAA tournament.
Well, you think about all those games where can't miss television. At the start of the season, everybody said, man, Kansas, they're just really bad defensively. Since that game, Kansas has been one of the better defensive teams. That just speaks to how great this offense has been all year. But as you get into conference play, you face an opponent that has such great understanding and knowledge of your system like St. Mary's does. They have figured out a way to slow down this offense and try to keep Gonzaga in distance, in reaching distance, and not many teams have done that.
You could argue no two teams in the country know each other better than these two programs. Tommy Kuhse, who really has played well, having a heck of a year, just missed that shot. Suggs, who's back in, glides down the court, had his shot blocked as he went to the rim. That was a nice defensive play by Toss.
I can't remember the last time these two teams didn't play 3 times in one season.
Yeah.
I mean, they chalk it up that they're going to play, obviously, 2 in conference play. But they're finding a way to find each other in Las Vegas at the West Coast Conference Tournament.
Now what are we waiting for?
We're tucking in jerseys.
Okay. Timmy on the catch. Foul against St. Mary's.
A little pull, I think. And Corey Kispert is going to go to the free throw line for a 1-on-1.
So that puts Gonzaga in the bonus for the next 9 minutes and 25 seconds.
So on game day today, they were talking right before Mark Few joined. They were saying, should we be playing, should we not be playing? And Jay was saying, questioning that thought process. I talked to Corey, and I said, how much did not getting a chance to play in the NCAA tournament kind of fuel your guys so far? And you had a pause, and what's that been like? He said, these long gaps without being to play the sport that I love has like this burning pit in my stomach. All I want to do is play. All I want to do is be with this team and keep marching towards our ultimate goal.
And I think so many players share that sentiment. I mean, if we can do this safely, these kids, these are college kids. Everything else in their lives that's fun, that's memorable of this time in your life has been taken away. What a good pass from Kuhse. Toss didn't get a shot up, though. That was a dangerous pass. But everything else has gone away. This is the one thing that these players, these student athletes, still have to look forward to.
And both these coaches have sons that are seniors in high school, whether it's Mark Few's son Joe or Chase, Randy Bennett's son, and neither one are playing in high school. And they're sitting there going, man, it has been really a grind for them not to be with their team, not to be working and trying to develop their skill and open up doors of opportunity to play at the college ranks.
St. Mary's not going away. 10-point lead, though, for the #1 team in the country. Quinn Clinton bounces it down low to Kyle Bowen. Backing his way in, and now a foul against the Zags. Randy Bennett's gone big tonight, and maybe that is another takeaway from this game, where he has used about as big a lineup as he can throw out there for a lot of minutes in this game. And there have been some points in this one where I think that's given the Zags a little bit of trouble.
It's not just the size, but it's the physicality of that size, and they have brought the punch and the fight to Gonzaga in this game. Gonzaga is still -8 in rebounds in this contest.
Kyle Bowen, he's had some wide open looks and just hasn't been able to get one of those threes to go down. Timmy, quick dribble to the basket.
Just great feel of where the defensive player is, and in particular, you can't allow Drew Timme to turn to his left that easy and one bounce finish. You have to understand he wants to get over that left shoulder. He's capable of going either way, but you prefer to make him go to his weak hand.
He's not going to rip the rim down. He's not going to swat shots into the 10th row. He is just so fun to play, though, with his footwork, with his variety of moves, and he snatches that defensive rebound. He can also handle the ball. Why not, big man? Bring it up. .22-24, the advantage in the paint, and that from way outside the paint. Corey Kispert for three.
A big screen opened up the door of opportunity, and that space allows number 24 in blue to dial it in.
Fotu got fouled by Watson. So that will take us to a timeout in Moraga. Well, our Farnham files for the night. It's a good one. Chances of Gonzaga going undefeated in the regular season. The last teams to do it. We'll talk about that right after this.
Hey, Dave, you think about the last 4 undefeated teams to enter the NCAA tournament. What happened in UNLV 90-91, of course, they made it all the way to the Final Four where they took that loss. St. Joe's actually undefeated, but then they lost in the Atlantic 10 tournament to Xavier. That team had Jameer Nelson as its standout. And then Fred Van Vliet in Wichita State in the Roundhouse. I was there as they finished off their regular season undefeated before they lost in the Elite Eight. Karl Anthony Towns, Devin Booker, 38-1. Alex Poitras didn't play. Wisconsin was able to get the victory in the Final Four. Jim Boeheim had this to say on his weekly radio appearance about Gonzaga. I don't think anyone can beat Gonzaga. I've never seen a team so far ahead since UCLA when John Wooden was there. That is a heck of a statement from a Hall of Fame coach about what Mark Few has built in the Pacific Northwest.
No kidding. And that guy's a big part of it, I think. You know, Gonzaga had all this returning talent, had experienced players they trusted, and they've added a guy who is arguably the most talented freshman in the country, the highest rated recruit to ever come to Gonzaga, Jalen Suggs, who has immediately been one of the best point guards in the country.
And different for them, right? They usually get a couple guys to transfer in, redshirt, develop. This is the first time they've really had a one-and-done player, but I think the success you've seen from Jalen opens up the door of opportunities for future one-and-done players to look at Gonzaga a little bit more serious and say, hey, I can go there. I'm going to get a lot of national attention. I'm going to play on a team that can compete at the highest level.
There are a couple that are looking real seriously right now. He comes away with a loose ball after Johnson had his shot rejected. Gonzaga was down by 10 in the first half. St. Mary's came out shooting it hot from the field, playing good defense, slowing the game down, doing all the things you figure you have to do. Zags just sort of weathered that, and here they are up 15. Suggs, late shot clock, tried to bounce it to Ayayi, threw it out of bounds.
It is remarkable when you think about Randy Bennett's going to go back and watch this tape and go, okay, we did this. We beat him on the boards. We slowed down the pace. We, for the most part, took him out of transition. And you still look up and you go, man, we're down 15 points. You have to have some shot makers. You know, you keep asking what kind of team can beat Gonzaga. You have to have a long, physical team that can battle on the glass and be physical and disrupt them on their cuts. But then you also have guys that can flat out shoot the ball from the outside, and that's a tough combination to have. Not many teams have it.
Kuzi with the left hand. Tip wouldn't go. Timmy rebound.
I think Baylor is the best suited team to knock off Gonzaga.
There's a lob. Timmy with the catch. He got pushed. And I think what we saw from Michigan, now look, again, Michigan today got beat and beat bad by Minnesota. Minnesota played great. Michigan did not play very well at all. A teaching moment with the freshman Jalen Suggs. But Michigan's got some length, some size inside. They can knock down shots. I mean, Michigan's got the talent.
And Villanova's been out of sight, out of mind for a while now.
True.
And Jay Wright's team, you talk about experienced guard play. Jeremiah Robinson Earl, another very talented player that will thrive at the next level. They're going to be a problem too.
Well, Super Tuesday presented by Progressive starts in the SEC, Tennessee and Florida, 7 Eastern right here on ESPN. And then it'll transition back to the ACC for the 9 p.m. Eastern game. Duke and Pitt. Hey, Pitt, speaking of sort of being out of sight, out of mind, at least for a while they were, but now back playing 6-2, the Pitt Panthers. A home game against Duke.
And Duke needs to get back to its principles at the defensive end of the floor. They got beat in transition quite often in the second half of that game against Virginia Tech the other night.
Duke, as of right this minute,
not a tournament team,
which is hard to believe. So that's a big game. Every game they play now is big because they have, in a way, sort of dug themselves a hole.
The thing about this year, this upcoming poll, we're going to look at a poll that doesn't have Kentucky, North Carolina, or Duke in it. It's been a long time since those three teams all haven't been ranked in the same poll.
No kidding. Jalen Suggs, it has been a frustrating night for him. He's done some good things, but it's been far from perfect for the superstar freshman down low. Timmy got a hand on it. Here's Kuzi, open three. Yes.
They overhelped. They ran two to the ball. That left Kuzi wide open. Good pass by Logan Johnson to find him immediately.
Tommy Kuzi's got 10.7 assists. He'd have more assists if some open shots had been knocked down. Kispert, three. There's the answer from Corey Kispert.
Cannot give him an open look. I mean, that is an uncontested look for one of the best shooters in the nation. One of the best players in the nation.
I mean, again, for Corey Kispert, a game where you feel like, gosh, he's struggling so much. He's 3 of 6 from outside, and he's got, what now, 15 points?
15 points.
Everybody point some direction. Just somebody point.
That's what I was doing earlier when I said, want to go have lunch over here?
Anton Watson been quiet tonight. He's an important part of this Gonzaga team. Some of those matchups that you were talking about, maybe thinking down the road where you play against another aggressive big team that's got size inside, he'll be important.
And let's not forget that when they played against West Virginia, Oscar Tshiebwe was still on that roster. And it caused some issues for Drew Timme in the first half of that game.
It did. That's been the closest game for the Zags. Bowen had his shot blocked by Suggs. What a defensive play that was.
Good length. That is outstanding length. That's not sea-level length. Schmitz, you got to change the length.
The only good thing about no fans in gyms is Mike Schmitz, he can hear you.
He can definitely hear me. This is the length of the type of guard that you want to see at the next level. That's high level right there. Yeah, you give him a C. A C? We're changing that. We're going B-. We're going B- right now. I'm going to get that changed.
That was pretty impressive. Kyle Bowen fouled out of the game.
Mike Schmitz does such a great job.
He
Part
does.
of the NBA draft for us at ESPN. Evaluating all these guys. And then they have all of us sitting there wanting to be critical and going, oh, did you see that?
Not an easy job. Kyle Bowen's in some pain. He toughed it out tonight for St. Mary's in this second half. He turned his ankle, and you could see him maybe playing on adrenaline come off the floor. He was in a lot of pain.
You hope long-term that that's not a problem for St. Mary's. This is going to be the first time that they've been 0-3 in conference play since that 05-06. Ironically, the last time they started 0-2, they lost 3, then won their 4th game, and ended up 8-6 in conference play.
And I think this Gales team has some upside to get better as the season goes along. You got to play perfect against number 1, though.
You got to have awareness of where 2-4 is for number 1. You give them that clean of a look, Dave. Good night.
ESPN's exclusive presentation of college basketball is presented by 5 Hour Energy Shots. Get it done.
$18-point lead for the number 1 team in the country. And part of the thing that makes Gonzaga such a special part of college basketball is the community that it has up in Spokane, Washington, and how much they love and adore not only the players of today, but also the players of yesteryears. And one in particular, Jeremy Eaton, who unfortunately got the news, like so many will this year, that he has cancer, has started a GoFundMe page. Now, Jeremy Eaton averaged 11.7 points per game on the Gonzaga team that made that original run all the way to the Elite 8. And I've posted up the GoFundMe link on my Twitter page. If you want to go there, at Sean Farnham, and if you can donate to help him out as he is in for the fight of his life right now against cancer. And so many great people have already donated in the Gonzaga community to try to raise funds to help take some of the pressure off of his family as he embarks on this mission.
You know, when you go to Duke, to Cameron Indoor for a game, normal times, former players everywhere. Whether they're working for Duke on Coach K's staff, they're his fans, whatever. When you go to Spokane, it's the same way. with the Zags. There are former Gonzaga players who are all over town. It is a true program that takes care of its own. So we're thinking about him and hope that he gets the help in so many different ways that he needs, and we're confident that he will.
Obviously at ESPN, the V Foundation. I'm on the National Council for Coaches versus Cancer, something very important to me, and we need to remember a lot of funding has dropped as far as going to the fight against cancer, even during these COVID-19 times.
Final 3 minutes here from Moraga. St. Mary's came ready to play, looked like maybe prime for what would have been a huge upset. Just too much Zags and not enough of the classic Randy Bennett offense. They could use a lot more of that from Matthias Toss, who, I mean, he's got it in him. He's got some talent, the big man.
It needs to be consistent, though,
Yeah,
Dave. I mean,
does.
you can't just make one shot and then all of a sudden say, well, hey, you got to sustain that over a full 40 minutes. And there's too many times where he misses those short ones, those little chippies, and doesn't finish it.
Jalen Suggs, on a night where he has been super frustrated for most of the night, has 14 points. Johnson went off glass, missed it. Timmy saves it in. Andrew Nemhart, birthday for him today. Now the guy's accepted a role much different from his previous one. He missed that three, started every game he played in the SEC for Florida. He comes off the bench for the Zags.
67 straight games he started for the Florida Gators. And that's the one thing that's truly remarkable about Mark Few's team. And I asked him, I said, how is that working? I mean, we on television talk about three players so frequently, in Suggs, Timmy, and Kispert. How's it working with everybody else? And he goes, everybody else gets it. One of the things that makes this group special is not only knowing what their roles are, but more importantly, accepting those roles and then thriving in them.
Turnover for Nemhard. Tommy Kuzi has fought hard tonight. One thing the Gales are going to have a problem with, Sean, down the stretch this year, he's playing so many minutes. I think, especially the second game of these conference pairs, late game, he's going to be down to his final fumes in the gas tank. And Tommy Kuzi's played every minute against BYU and Gonzaga.
You're asking a lot out of him, and the history of guards, and he's been lucky. He's learned under some of those great guards that have been part of St. Mary's program. But you are asking him to basically do everything. He has to set the table, and he's doing it right now with a shortened roster that isn't allowing him to maybe have the same kind of shooters he has on the outside.
Well, coming up on Monday, a doubleheader for you in the ACC. Florida State and Louisville at 7 Eastern right here on ESPN, on the ESPN app. The college football, or the college hoops season, college football over with, college hoops maybe finally starting to, I mean, I know we still are getting postponements and whatnot. And then the Sonic blockbuster that'll follow that. Kansas and Baylor at 9 Eastern on Monday. Huge game in the Big 12. It feels like there's a little more rhythm here now. You're still getting postponements, and we will continue, I'm sure, to get that. But I think we're sort of finally finding a rhythm this college hoop season.
Game day was back today.
Yeah,
that makes it
maybe
feel
that's
like
maybe that's the feeling for me.
And look, if you came into this year and you didn't think we're going to have cancellations, then I don't know where you've been living. Maybe under a rock, because there was clearly going to be cancellations. But I think most of these programs and the protocols that they've put into place allow these players to continue to be healthy and put out there when they can be successful. And we've seen stoppages, some of them much longer than others. We're going to continue to have that. Enjoy what we have.
How about the three from Judah Brown, the freshman, in these final couple minutes? I think they feel like he's got a chance to be a real good player for St. Mary's with some time. So does that guy, Matt Van Komen, who's 7'4". 7'4".
He's going to be good. And the key for him is he's going to have to develop a better strength in his lower body. It's not there yet, but he's got a pretty good offensive feel to him. I came to the gym earlier today, and I was watching him work out on the court, and he's got some moves to him. He just has to have understanding and spacing and how he has to rhythmically run up and down the floor at both ends.
Kispert and Timmy check out for the final 32 seconds. Name to file away for the future, Matt Van Komen, 7'4" freshman for the Gales. On a night where St. Mary's is going to come up short here despite a good effort. Umar Ballo had a chance for a dunk on the alley-oop and missed it.
That would have been sensational.
Jade Mullins, he's a good young player. Airball that shot. He has not played tonight. He's been given St. Mary's some pretty big minutes of late.
Listen, they're all not going to be pretty, and the streak of 85 points ends at 13 for the Gonzaga Bulldogs. But what does not end is their streak of victories. They continue to rattle them off. Randy Bennett had a disciplined approach to the game. The Gonzaga Bulldogs pulled away at the later stages of that first half and then just took it all the way through the second half. Really impressive win for Gonzaga, considering the style of play that they were going against.
They're going to take everybody's best shot. They're going to have games like this where maybe things aren't quite as smooth, and no panic in number one, Jalen Suggs. Frustration for him, and yet in the end, a solid all-around game. And Joel Ayayi, a night for him to shine among all the stars of the Zags.
His movement without the ball, he is the X factor to this team. He rebounds, he distributes, and boy, when he gets out in transition, he's pretty special.
So another one of these rivalry games in the WCC in the books. Two programs that know each other so well.